I spent 1,000 sleepless nights in waits of dreams I could not find. I walked.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Am I live? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome back to the Iftar Drive. Caught me totally by surprise, but nevertheless, this is the Palestine Ramadan radio segment. And of course, joining me now to discuss the Freedom Flotilla Coalition and, of course, all things Palestinian is Ismail Moola. This segment of the program is sponsored or arranged by the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, or done in conjunction or in partnership with the Palestine Solidarity Alliance. And Ismail Moola, activist and veteran leader in the organization, joins me now. Assalamu alaikum, Ismail.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Malana, it is a great honor to be here with you. We know and we understand that the plight of the Palestinians is close to the hearts of all South Africans, especially if we take in cognizance of the last 24 hours and the events that have been manifesting in Masjid al-Aqsa. Jazakallah for having us, Malana.
Barakallah, not a problem, Ismail. Let's go back to those events that you just referred to. We woke up this morning with, really shocked by the news where police were clashing with crowds at Masjid al-Aqsa. And for the longest time this month, we've been saying that, the tensions are boiling. Now it seems that they've boiled over and there has, in fact, been a clash. Perhaps if you could characterize what that means, and please unmute yourself before you go ahead.
So what we're saying is that it is important for us to put the 24 hours and the events in the 24 hours into context.
Right.
Remember, we all are aware the significance and the importance of Masjid al-Aqsa, and we are all aware that it is the third most holiest place in terms of us as Muslims. And it makes me feel very sad if we look at what's happening in Ukraine and how the entire Western world has come together in order to defend Ukraine. But we as the Muslim Ummah, who have the necessary resources, are stymied and are diddling our figures in terms of liberation of Masjid al-Aqsa. That's just my personal thoughts. But it is important for us to note that even the Zionists are aware and know that whoever controls Masjid al-Aqsa basically controls Jerusalem. And if the status quo remains, then it will mean that the Muslims are in control of Jerusalem. The other thing also, Malana, we must give credit to the Zionists. They plan and they are very patient. If we look at the thought processes that started in 1898, where they had a conference to say that we need a homeland for us as Jewish people. Mm-hmm. In 1898, they looked at different countries, different parts of the world. Even we had Ethiopia in Africa that was one of the possible sites. And then they decided that, we're going to go for Palestine. And that, came into fruition only in 1948. That is 50 years later. So it tells you that they remain focused and they take bit by bit by bit by bit, and that gives everybody a false sense of security. So it's the same thing that is happening at the moment in Jerusalem. It's the same thing that is happening in Masjid al-Aqsa. The Zionists, they try and take bits and bits and bits, small bits at a time. And people say, well, Sheikh Jarrah, it's 7 or 8 families, how is that going to impact on the national stage? You see what I'm saying to you? And that is what they do, is they take one at a time, and suddenly 10 years down the line, the whole suburb is gone. So in terms of the current clashes, I mean, you remember you've got the right wing there, and they came out very publicly 2 days ago to say that they're going to come into Masjid al-Aqsa because it's their holy festive period as well, and they're going to desecrate it by performing some live animal spiritual activities there. And this, at the end of the day, is a red line for our people in Palestine, and it should be a red line for Muslims all over the world. And the current conflict is basically based on our people's resolve to make sure that we will not stand for this kind of propagation.
So the clashes that took place last night, we see a lot of Palestinians wearing masks, wearing masked off and wearing black. What was the provocation there, Ismail?
Remember, the idea there was that they were going to camp inside the mosque to prevent the right-wing element from entering the holy place. And they were there for Fajr Salah, and after Fajr Salah, they stationed themselves, positioned themselves, barricaded themselves in the advent of these people coming through. They were going to prevent the takeover of Masjid al-Aqsa and the desecration of it. The sad part is that again the Zionists use a tactic to say that, you know what, we are out there to protect people, we are out there to make sure that musallis that are going to come for Jummah Salah are going to be able to have a free reign. And therefore we had to remove all these protesters that were in the mosque, because they would have caused a blockage in terms of those that wanted to come for Jummah Salah. And we don't buy this. You know, the sad part for me is that if we're looking at the social media, the videos that are out there, it is so clear that these are people that are unarmed, facing aggression from soldiers that are equipped, totally equipped, and yet the world just turns a blind eye. And in terms of the world, I also talk about the Islamic world, because they remain silent in terms of this provocation.
All right, Ismail, we're talking to Ismail Moola. He's an activist and veteran leader in the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, talking to us there about the events of the last few days. Now, Ismail, I want to talk to you about the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, the international movement to bring supplies to the territories that are, occupied, and also to end the embargo, to end the siege. We had some a few years ago, but where is this coming, and is it still a plan to continue like this with the flotilla, with the Freedom Flotilla movement?
Again, remember, the siege is ongoing, and the siege causes a lot of problems. I visited Gaza myself, and when I met Palestinians there, they are sad in the sense that they live on handouts, they live on charity, they live on donation, and this doesn't make them feel good, because they know that they have the capacity and the ability to provide for themselves. But because of the circumstances that they are in, there is nothing that can come in there that can give them some sort of livelihood, that can give them some sort of resources, that they could have their businesses, run their businesses, and run their lives like normal people do all over the world. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition came together in 2008 in an attempt to break the siege of Gaza, because we find it is illegal, and internationally it is illegal. You cannot blockade a people and deny them their basic human rights, basic rights of freedom of movement, for argument's sake. So from 2008, and we are very proud of this fact that in August 2008, 2 passenger boats with 44 activists successfully reached Gaza without no intervention from the Zionist regime, which is what it's supposed to be. And they successfully entered Gaza, and it was a very momentous occasion. Thousands and thousands of people from Gaza came to greet these activists, and they spent almost 2 weeks in Gaza, and then they left. Subsequently to that, I mean, we've had successful boats that have been trying to break the siege of Gaza, but obviously we have met with the IDF in international waters, and our boats have been confiscated. The serious one of this was the Mavi Mamra in 2010. We had a South African there, Khatija Davis, that was on that boat. And, sadly, we know that Turkish nationals lost their lives. So the process is ongoing. Obviously, COVID has now created some challenges for us. And last year, what we did was, as the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, we got together with Miles of Smiles and joined them in their campaign in regard to provide ambulances for Gaza. Remember, any activity that you do that assists in bringing stuff into Gaza, that in itself is assisting in breaking the siege. So it wasn't what we did on water. We did something on land, and alhamdulillah, it was very successful. So this year, our mission for 2022, again, because of COVID, we are doing a virtual boat to Gaza. Okay. And what we are saying is that, remember, the coalition, we are 15 countries as a coalition, and a lot of times people are sympathetic to our cause. People would want to join us on our missions, but because of health reasons, because of time reasons, because of risk reasons, because remember, it's one of the only activities where we as international solidarity movements come face to face with the IDF. So it's not something that's taken lightly, and when we even take our passengers on these activists on our boats, we have to give them a lot of training and make them aware of the risks. So the
sorry, Ismail. So Ismail, you say it's going to be a virtual boat. So try to explain that to me. Virtual boat. I mean, is it a boat or is it not a bote? Because
it's a virtual boat. It's a virtual boat. It is there in a virtual reality.
Okay.
The idea is that we're going to give everybody, inshallah, an opportunity to become a passenger on that boat. And what we are saying is that you'll fill in a declaration form to say that I, Ismail Moola, stand for equality, stand for human rights, and feel that it is important for the same values to be extended to the Palestinians, especially to those in Gaza. And you will say that I support the international effort to break the siege, and we will then put you as a passenger on our virtual boat. And the idea is that each of our countries, whether it is Australia, whether it's America, whether it's New Zealand, France, Norway, Sweden, each one of them will have their own boats. And we are hoping that we would have an international force of approximately about 10,000 people that are signing virtually, but acceding to the fact that they are against the siege of Gaza and that they are against the illegal blockade of Gaza and calling on the international community to break the siege.
Okay. So, now, Ismail, the reason why I'm asking that is because the whole idea of the flotilla was to bring physical supplies and physical relief to the people in Gaza, isn't it? And they went physically at great risk to themselves. As you mentioned, there was a confrontation with the IDF, and some people were actually killed. So how are you going to achieve this with the virtual flotilla?
In terms of taking supplies, the idea here is that although it will not be a prerequisite, you would have an option to make a donation. And once we've collated all that money, we would then, similar to what we did with partnering with Miles of Smiles with the ambulance, we will then, depending on the funds that we have, pick up a cause, partner with an organization that has links. Because let me be very clear with you, Malana, it's not easy to get things into Gaza if you don't have the network, if you don't have the chain of procedural requirements, you will never get anything into Gaza. So it's easier for us as an organization then to partner with an organization like Miles and Smiles, for argument's sake, who have those contacts. And that is not easy, but at least we know that we will eventually get through. The other thing also is that it doesn't pay us to buy stuff in South Africa and then ship it from here to Turkey or to another neighboring country. The logistics of it makes it impractical.
Okay. Very, very fascinating, Ismail. Ismail, on the Palestine Ramadan radio, for which the Palestine Solidarity Alliance is giving us a lot of support, alhamdulillah, we're very grateful for that. We've had numerous conversations with the various activists, outside Palestine and within Palestine. And the feeling that I get, the impression that I have, is that the international sentiment is turning. We're at a very critical place right now in the fight for the liberation of Palestine. Do you also get the same feeling that, like, international sentiment is turning away from Israel to and are now siding a lot more with the Palestinians, showing more solidarity with the Palestinians? The Israelis are losing the moral high ground, or the moral support that they have enjoyed over the years. Do you see that as well, Ismail?
Absolutely. If we look at even in South Africa, I mean, although we are unhappy in the sense that we feel that the coverage is not as much as what we would like, but you will notice that now and then there is a national coverage in terms of events that are taking place in Palestine, and this was unheard of 5 years ago. 5 years ago, for us to get into the mainstream media would have been basically impossible. For us now, it is a lot more easier. I think Ukraine has done us a tremendous amount of publicity, because it's bringing to reality the hypocrisy of the Western world, how they turned a blind eye to Palestine, and yet mobilizes their forces against an invasion of a foreign country. And I think this has also rekindled the spirit, the fighting spirit of the Palestinians, because suddenly people are talking about the Ukrainians as being heroes because they are protecting their land and protecting their family and protecting their mothers and their fathers, and rightly so. But when Palestinians do exactly the same thing, they don't regard them as heroes, they're calling them terrorists. So in terms of the Palestinian mindset, and in terms of how I am viewing the events of the last week, I am saying is that Palestinians themselves are now realizing that no, we are not terrorists. We are also heroes, because we're also protecting our mothers, we're also protecting our fathers, we're also protecting our land. And this, I think, is going to be a very, very powerful moment for Palestinians to claim their space. And we know that, the mainstream media initially came up with a whole lot of hogwash in terms of how they portrayed this, the Ukrainian struggle as being a white thing. And because white people are involved and people with blue eyes are suffering, it's a different kind of humanity compared to human beings in Asia or in Afghanistan and in Palestine. So, it was very clear. And in terms of that, this is going to create a new platform for us to articulate when we are expounding our views. Inshallah.
Absolutely.
Inshallah.
I mean, Ismail, I can speak to you for much longer, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. You are indeed a veteran in the Palestine Solidarity movement. It's a great treat that we were able to speak to you today. Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward you. May Allah keep you going strong. Your last message before we end this conversation.
Malana, well, firstly, I want to thank you again for giving us an opportunity. The second thing is that, it is very important for us to remember that the Zionists, they had a wish, they had a dream. They said that, what would happen? The old will die and the young will forget. We are 70 years down the line. Alhamdulillah, 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 we will never ever forget the cause of Palestine. And to all our listeners there, keep the flame of Palestine alive. Today we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have opportunities to articulate our views from our lounge suites. Please do it. and it makes an impact, it makes a difference, and every little bit helps. Jazakallah.
Barakallah, Ismail Moola there. Shukran lakum for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ismail Moola is a veteran leader in the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, talking to us there about how he sees the current Palestinian situation, the current struggle for freedom that the Palestinians are undergoing right now, the international world events, and of course the Freedom Flotilla Coalitions that are still doing their part to make sure that supplies are sent into the heart of Gaza, which is currently under a blockade, and a very cruel blockade that's been instituted by the Israeli government, bringing our time to 28 minutes to 6 p.m. Central African time. We continue with the rest of the program, inshallah al-Aziz. Just before Maghrib, we have Maulana Sabri Davids, Imam at Masjid al-Thani, that's in Rockland, Mitchell's Plain, for our spiritual hour, inshallah. Stay tuned for that.